Hi friends, Sister Lida Christ here. Are you looking to find online queer content but you don't know where to go? Well, do we have you covered? Head on over to Kikipedia. Our friends at Kikipedia have assembled a TV guide of everything that's playing in the queer digital space. Whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or 3 a.m., they have you covered. Visit Kikipedia.
Hello, it's me, Sister Gloria Alleluia, the Holy Cow, from the Boston Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and I am here today to talk to you about the Boston Sisters Community Grants Fund. Since 2014, we've given away nearly $40,000 to organizations as varied and diverse as queer theater arts and performance groups, to elder and youth support organizations, and mental and physical health groups, from homeless support and food programs to groups that support our trans friends and people of color. And after a year of record-breaking fundraisers and great, amazing support from our friends and family like you, we have so much money. Like, so much money. Please, we are begging you, come and take our money. Please. But you might be asking, well, how do I get some of that money? Well, first of all, you have to be part of an organization, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. Second of all, not a requirement, but you maybe should be in Massachusetts or the New England area. We do love to give local. And third, like the groups that I mentioned above, and probably most importantly, you have to do work that makes your community a brighter, a richer, a happier, a healthier place to be. Your mission should align with the Sisters' mission of bringing happiness and joy and education and freedom and every other good word to everyone around you. If you are part of a 501c3 and you do that kind of work, then you should apply. Now, obviously, we can't give money to everybody, but it doesn't hurt to apply because you never know. So, the deadline for applications is Friday, December 4th, 2020, and you can find out more information from the groups that we've helped in the past to the criteria that we look for in organizations. All of that can be found on thebostonsisters.org. I'll put the full link down here because I don't feel like saying it out loud because there's slashes and hyphens and who can be bothered? Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little video. We truly hope that we will get applications from all of you. Last year, I think we got about 25. Let's hope that we can double that number this year because I am the Mistress of Grants and I am ready to weed through 50 applications. That sounds like a dream to me. I am not being sarcastic. We love you. We adore you. We cannot wait until we get to actually see you in person again. Please be safe. Please be healthy. Please be fabulous. We love you. The Boston Sisters. Mwah.
Hello and good evening, everybody. We've made it to another Friday. I'm joined by the amazing, the delicious, the innovative Paul John Kearins.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Paul.
Hi.
So for our viewership who may be meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Paul John. My friends call me PJ, and I'm a chocolatier, meaning I make chocolate for a living.
I'm a mouseketeer. No.
And what makes it even better is I'm a chocolatier in Provincetown.
That's both amazing, and I'm sure many men and I'm sure many people come to town and they both laud and curse you at the same time.
At the same time. Yeah.
This is so good. Fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long have you been working in chocolate?
I'm looking at now 25 years.
How did this start?
Well, it actually started when I was a really small child. And I always loved to cook. I guess I had the gene because my grandmother was a pastry chef. So she would bake all the time. I would watch, then I would help. And then at home, I would experiment myself. And being this little gay boy, I had to have all the colors in it, all the flavors in it, all the glitter, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I was baking at like 8 years old. So that's kind of where it started. And I was actually able to cook dinner for my family at like 10 years old.
I bet your parents were like, we're done. This is great.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
I like that you said that you were watching your gram. Do you feel like, do you still like remember her when you're cooking? Like, are there certain
Oh yeah, absolutely.
that bring back memories?
Absolutely. If I'm making apple pie, I always think of her making the apple pie because she used to make it on in a soup dish, you know, those big wide soup dishes. And I just remember her picking up the dish with the flour on her hands and taking the knife, and it was a butter knife, and cutting around the edge of the dish, and the pastry would fall down onto the counter. And then she would let me help her pinch the edges of the pastry. And then she would bake the trimmings on the baking sheet next to the pie so that we could snack on those afterwards. It was so nice. Yeah, I do remember her when I'm baking.
What do you find in town? Is there a product that you make, a chocolate, a confection what's your top seller?
My top seller is a chocolate bar. I make all types of chocolate. So I make like bonbons and truffles and little chocolate bites and that kind of thing. But the number one seller I've had this year is this one. And that's my packaging, see?
First of all, I'm in love with the octopus. And then
Do you like it? The bar is called, get ready for it, Yun Yun. And that is the name of a Hong Kong style milk tea. So I don't know if you've ever seen the videos of them pouring milk tea from one container to the other from a great height.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It blows my mind because they're twisting and it's
and this milk tea is special because it's got coffee in it. It's a mixture of coffee and tea. So I thought that sounds really interesting. I'm going to put coffee and tea into a white chocolate bar and create this coffee milk tea. And it's been my number one seller this year. Everyone loves it. It's really good.
I think the size of that is really nice too.
Well, I like something substantial.
It's good.
And also I like octopuses as well, octopi.
Is there an imprint of the octopus on the bar, or is the bar?
There is. You want me to open it?
Well, that's up to you.
Yeah, I'll open it.
I would love to see you unwrap it. Oh, what an experience!
Get it naked. Okay. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the octopus on there?
Oh my gosh, that's great! Look at the temper on that.
I know, listen to you. You know all the terms. The temper.
Like, well, it's just an angry bar of chocolate. No.
Yeah, it is. It's got a good temper. It's a good tempered bar of chocolate. And look, see, I've got the octopus here on my arm.
No, that's awesome. The white work in the tattoo is
in this.
Yeah.
I had this done at Mooncusser here in Provincetown. You know that place, right?
I don't. We have a tattoo parlor in town?
In Provincetown, we have, it's on the corner. It's next to the Governor Bradford.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like really Really big place as well. But yeah, so that's what my #1 seller was this year.
Now, are you a year-round Provincetown liver?
Yeah, I am.
And when did you move to town?
I moved here officially in 2018, but I had been coming here. I used to live in North Georgia, up in the mountains there.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to come up and visit friends of mine who owned the Purple Feather Cafe in Provincetown. You know the one?
Yeah.
And they would invite me up to come and do special events with them. And I would stand at the front of the cafe in this little artisan area they had, and would do chocolate demonstrations and that kind of thing. So I did that for like 6 years. And then on one particular visit, I got a phone call from my husband saying, "We've got a problem. The landlord is selling the house and we have to get out." And my friends at the Purple Feather were standing next to me and they said, "Well, why don't you come up here and work with us?" And the rest is history.
They have a great kitchen.
They do, but they're no longer there. The place is sold.
Oh.
So I'm out of there now, and I'm actually now focusing this winter solely on my small business.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also going to be the full-time baker at Connie's bakery in, at the aquarium where the aqua bar is.
Yes.
I'm going to be the baker there full-time. I've already worked a few months with them, so.
So when you're not making chocolate, what do you think your strongest confection or baked good is, or the thing that brings you the most joy?
I love making chocolate cake. Of course, because it's what I know. I love making chocolate cakes that people don't expect.
Oh.
So I will make a chocolate cake that is solely made from mousse, and then the mousse will be piped on the top decoratively. So it looks like a frosted cake, but when you cut through it, it's just mousse all the way through. That kind of thing. And I like putting weird ingredients in stuff as well. I like putting, if that's a chocolate mousse cake, then I would flavor it with thyme, the herb, or I will put black pepper and strawberry in it, or that kind of thing. So that's what I like to do.
Where do you think those are really bold, but also complementary flavors. Where do you think how did your palate develop? How did you become?
I have something called, a very heightened olfactory memory, which means I remember smells.
Mm-hmm.
And I can conjure up a new flavor combination just by thinking about the smell of something. So, for example, one of my chocolates is made with rhubarb, and it's accented with some sage. And people ask me, how did you come up with that flavor combination? And what it was my mum's friend when I was a small child. Her name was Betty, and she lived about 15 minutes away from our house, but we had to walk through like this little country path to get to her house. And she had this amazing garden, and she had all the herbs in the lower beds and then all the flowers in the higher beds behind it. And we would just go there and hang out and explore the garden. And she showed me that you could smell the herbs just by rubbing the leaves.
Mm.
And I remember rubbing the sage leaves with her and smelling my fingers, and you could smell the sage. After that, we went into her kitchen, and she had made tea, and she had baked a rhubarb pie. And I'm eating my slice of rhubarb pie with a fork, and as I put the fork up to my mouth, I'm tasting the rhubarb and smelling the sage at the same time. And I will never forget that memory. And that's kind of how I have this weird capacity to create unusual flavor combinations.
So folks, you've heard it here. Head to P-Town, go to Connie's, and also, are you going to have a storefront, like a small storefront next season?
No, I've been in business as Chocolatier for, God, 7 years now. And it's been online the whole time. So I ship all over the country. And I don't usually do international, but I have shipped to Canada before.
Okay.
But it's a bit like, but yeah, I ship for my living, basically. So you can go visit my website, chocolatasm.com, and you can order on there, and I can ship.
The link will be provided below.
It will, yeah.
There it is.
There it is, look.
What is your, have you found, so you've been in P-Town coming for many years. Does the town inspire you at all?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, I think you've probably experienced that self. Once you go past that sign saying, welcome to Provincetown, you feel this kind of like, oh, this kind of tingly feeling. And I think that's a special energy that Provincetown has. And I've always said, Provincetown, you don't choose Provincetown, Provincetown chooses you. And I feel like I'm one of the chosen because I came here, and even talking about it now, I can feel that kind of, ooh, that tingly feeling. And I think Provincetown inspires me energetically. It's a very, it brings out the creativity in people. And even if it means, people will say, oh, it's been so hard for me living here because of housing, jobs, blah, 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 blah. And I think that is part of that Provincetown energy. It encourages you to be creative, not only like with pencils and paper and food, but it also encourages you to be creative with how you manage your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not for Provincetown, it will spit you out.
And that's okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your experience is in Provincetown, it's always a learning experience.
So speaking of learning experiences, are you self-taught, or did you go to uni, or how did?
Well, yeah, as I said, I kind of started off on my own, just playing as a kid, playing with food. Instead of building like models of battleships, I was building cakes and cookies and that kind of thing. But I went to pastry school, and that was at a small pastry school just outside London in England. And I went there for 3 years. I learned everything about everything.
Oh my God. Those experiences are so, I found them, they're rewarding, but they're also challenging. And I think any type of trade learning, it shows you how resilient you can be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And it also shows you that you're never done. There's always more to learn. Literally, I'll be done when they put me in the ground. So I don't plan on stopping learning or stopping trying new and exciting things out, or maybe even revisiting old things that people have forgotten about. That's also very important.
It's true, because things can phase out just in 1 or 2 generations.
Yeah, exactly.
I look at my grandparents' recipes, and I remember how good they tasted, but there's a lot of like animal shortening or other like byproducts. I just can't bring myself to get a jar of Crisco, because like
No.
I'm always like, I wonder if I just got it, if it would taste better.
It would probably taste exactly how you remember it. I'm pretty sure it would.
Right? So tell me, can you tell our viewers, speaking about like ingredients, how many types of chocolate are there?
There's a little bit of a controversy going on right now. Technically, there are 3 types of chocolate. Okay? And those are dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white chocolate. And now we can dispel all those myths about white chocolate not being real chocolate, because it is.
Right.
What constitutes chocolate is that it contains, what categorizes chocolate is it contains cocoa beans, which come from the cocoa tree, or the fruit of the cocoa tree. Do you want to see one?
Do you have one?
I have one, but it's surprisingly made of chocolate. But this is what a cocoa pod looks like.
But wait, you've made this out of chocolate?
Yeah, I molded it out of chocolate. See? So the cocoa pod, that grows from the cocoa tree, but it doesn't grow like apples do from the tips of the twigs. It actually grows out of the side of the tree, out of the trunk of the tree.
What?
So you'll see these trees they're not very big, and they have these not too big trunks, a bit like an apple tree. And then you'll see these pods growing out of the side. But you can see how big it is. It's very big.
Yeah.
I mean, there's my hand next to it.
It's about a small football.
And my hands are huge. I mean, I have enormous manly hands. So you can imagine how big these are. Each one of these will contain about 40 cocoa beans, give or take. But to make 1 pound of chocolate, you need about 100.
That sounds
maybe more actually than 100. I'm having to think about that now. It's probably about 150 cocoa beans will make a pound of chocolate. So this cocoa bean goes into the seeds are pulled out. They're covered in this juicy fruit pulp, which is delicious. You can eat it. But it isn't eaten because we need it to create the flavor of chocolate. And the cocoa beans straight out of the cocoa pod are basically uneatable. I won't say they're inedible, because they are edible, but you wouldn't want to eat them because they're extremely bitter and extremely astringent. You know, it takes all the moisture out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And what they will do is they'll scoop out the contents of this pod in its entirety, and then put it into large containers in the rainforest. This is all happening in the rainforest. And they leave it for a few days. And you can imagine what happens to fruit pulp in the middle of the tropics if you leave it in the open for a few days. It's going to start to ferment.
Yeah.
That fermentation breaks down those really astringent, bitter chemicals in the cocoa beans. So after about 7 to 8 days, they stop the fermentation process by pulling everything out of the container and then rinsing them off with lots of water to get off all that fruit pulp. And the beans are then ready to be dried, and then they will dry them, and then they bag them, and then they take them to the auction location, and then the beans are auctioned, a bit like they do with other commodities like oil and coffee, that kind of thing. There will be an auction held, and then the price will be set, and then the cocoa beans will be sold. And that's kind of where the farmer part of the process ends, and the big manufacturing part begins. So those cocoa beans then are transported to wherever the chocolate is going to be made, and then they'll be roasted and then ground up and then created into chocolate.
Have you seen this process yourself?
No, I haven't. I have seen it. I have done it, but just in my own little kitchen. I used to live in the Caribbean before I moved here, and a friend of mine had cocoa trees in her garden. So I took the cocoa beans and fermented them and dried them and roasted them and made my own little piece of chocolate. But I haven't actually been to the rainforest in South America or Africa or anywhere like that to actually see the process, unfortunately. But it's on my list.
So mine too. How labor intensive was that to, I mean, thankfully you didn't have to grow the tree, but from harvesting the bean to having a final distilled product, how much time did that take you?
In my own personal little kitchen experience, it took me about 10 days to do that.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's not bad at all. No, once the cocoa pod is opened up and the beans are taken out, it goes pretty quickly. But the good thing about cocoa beans is that they last a really, really long time. You can store them. They'll be stored in warehouses, in barrels, and in sacks. They can be stored for years, and they'll be fine.
Now back to this. It's not even a model. Back to the cocoa bean that you made. Is there anything inside of it? Don't crack it open. But
there's nothing inside this one. This one is actually hollow inside, but it's very thick. It weighs like half a pound.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I sell these as well on my website. And but I want to get back to the chocolate. So the 3 types of chocolate.
Yes.
The dark chocolate is made from cocoa beans and sugar.
Okay.
Ground up. This is just the simplified version, okay? And the milk chocolate is the cocoa beans and sugar plus milk powder, and then it's all ground up.
Okay.
And then white chocolate doesn't have the dark part of the cocoa bean. It doesn't have that fibrous cocoa powder. It just has the fat that we find in cocoa beans, which is called cocoa butter. So that white chocolate is cocoa butter, sugar, and milk powder. That's what makes it. But now the controversial part is the purported 4th type of chocolate. Have you heard of that?
Is it ruby?
Yeah. It's being presented to the world as the 4th type of chocolate, but people in the chocolate world are not all in agreement of that, because it has a lot of other ingredients added to it to make it what it is, that technically makes it milk chocolate, because it has milk added to it.
Okay.
So there kind of are 4 types of chocolate, but really there's only 3. Ruby is more of a like confection.
It's more in the stuff that has been added to it to make
it has a lot of other things added. I mean, they're not bad things. It's like citric acid from lemons and oranges, and it has milk added to it, and it has whey, from buttermilk, that kind of thing added to it. So it's not naturally the way it is. It has a lot of help from lots of other ingredients, which is why we're kind of like, we're not sure if it's actually the 4th type of chocolate. But it tastes nice.
So with all of these chocolates and flavors, for someone who's just starting, what's a common mistake that an at-home chocolatier might make?
The biggest and most common mistake is they will go to the grocery store and they will buy a bag of chocolate chips and then try to melt them and make chocolates from them. And they're like, it's not working because it's all gone thick and stodgy and I can't get it out of the bowl, or I can't get it into the mold. So that's the biggest problem and the most common problem. And I'm just going to say now to all you budding would-be chocolatiers out there, don't buy the chocolate chips, because they're not meant for that. They're made to be baked in a cookie and to stay in the shape of a chocolate chip inside the cookie, even when they come out of the oven. So there are lots of things in there that you don't want to have in your homemade truffles or whatever, like. So buy real chocolate. And we have internet now. You can buy real chocolate anywhere. You can go online and just Google, we'll have to write this down on the bottom, okay? Chocolate couverture. It's the French word for chocolate intended for covering things or dipping things. So chocolate couverture is what you need.
It's one of my friends was on a Canadian chocolate show. It just premiered like 6 months ago.
Okay.
But, I found it's been my experience that as long as you're within a temperature threshold, chocolate can be forgiving.
Yeah, it can.
Which is great. especially as you're learning. I was like, it's too runny. He's like, okay, you need to thicken it up. He's like, what do you have in your kitchen? I was using cocoa powder, I think, and butter to try to make a ganache. So
Okay.
he's like, do you have any chocolate bars? I was like, yes. He's like, you're gonna need to melt those immediately and get that into your.
Yeah, because ganache is kind of tricky as well, depending on what type of chocolate you use. And for those of you who don't know what ganache is, it's that filling you get inside chocolates that's all like fudgy and melty in your mouth. And it's made from cream, heavy cream, and chocolate. And that's it. And you can put some butter in as well, just to make it even better for you.
So I know not everybody has the same experience with chocolates, but what do you, on a spiritual and science level, what do you believe it is when someone bites into a chocolate? What is it that happens in their brains? Because I know it's like, it's a comfort food. It's also do so many things. So what's going on inside our bodies?
So what it is chocolate contains fat, and that fat is called cocoa butter. And one of the specific things about cocoa butter is it melts at body temperature. There's like 1 degree difference. Oh. It will melt at body temperature. So you know, if you have a piece of chocolate in your hand for more than a couple of minutes, it's going to start melting in your hand. And that's what makes eating chocolate such a unique experience. We don't eat chocolate because we need it to live. We eat it solely because it's pleasurable, okay? And the moment you put that piece of chocolate in your mouth, the moment it's on your tongue, it begins to melt immediately. And you can feel it. It starts to flow. It goes everywhere. It coats your whole tongue. So basically, that chocolate is becoming one with you, like immediately. So it's a very immersive experience.
Okay.
Then, of course, you've got the sugar. That sweetness just hits all those pleasure receptors in your body, will give you a lift. And then you've got all the chemicals that cocoa naturally contains. The main one being theobroma or theobromine, derived from the name of the cocoa bean, the cocoa pod, which is Theobroma cacao. That's the botanical name of the plant. Contains this molecule called theobromine. And that is very similar to caffeine. It will stimulate the serotonin production in your brain. So you've heard the legend, the story that eating chocolate makes you feel like you're in love.
Yes.
It's very close to that feeling. It will suddenly give you a serotonin lift. So you always feel better when you're eating chocolate. The only difference is unlike caffeine, which stays with you for a few hours, theobromine dissipates within half an hour. It goes very quickly. So you notice that after you've finished eating chocolate, you want to eat more because you want to keep that level going all the time. So yeah, that's what's going on in your brain. You actually feel like you're in love. That's why it's so comforting.
Yeah. So I'm in entertainment design. I'm in theater, and we always have, once we're in doing tech, putting the show together, there's always one person that's like, I've got the emergency chocolate. And
yeah.
Everybody makes their way over. Okay, so the winter seasons are coming upon us. Do you pivot in this sort of, right after Halloween, do you pivot your flavor profiles do you have like a winter line?
I don't have a specific winter line. Every year I just go where the mood takes me.
Ooh, okay.
And there is one filled chocolate bonbon that I make every year because people love it, and I always launch it just before Thanksgiving, and so that one always comes back, and that's a caramel. And it's a soft caramel. You know when you bite it and then you get that long string of caramel? It's like that. And it's made with cranberry sauce.
Get out of town.
Yeah, and you know when you're eating your Thanksgiving dinner or your Christmas dinner, and you get that bite where you get a little taste of that cranberry sauce, and there's maybe some gravy there and some stuffing there, and it's that gorgeous flavor experience that feels so comforting and feels like home and family.
Yeah.
That flavor is in this caramel because it's got buttery caramel, it's got cranberry sauce, it's got rosemary, and it's got a little bit of white pepper. So when you bite into this cranberry sauce caramel, it's like that Thanksgiving feeling. It really is.
Tell me, do you have any tips on making a good caramel?
Yeah, be patient. And also be very, very cautious. If it doesn't look dark enough, but almost dark enough when you're burning that sugar, stop before it gets dark enough, because in the few seconds it takes for you to turn off the heat and move that pan somewhere cool, that's heat in the pan, the residual heat is still going to continue caramelizing that sugar. And there's nothing worse than having a caramel that has gone too dark, because then it tastes bitter.
It's really alchemy to me. So I really respect the work that you do, because for an amateur or a first time confectioner, the difference between like almost done and overdone, the threshold is so narrow.
Yeah.
Probably not for you, but
I don't even look anymore. Do you know that? I don't even look at the recipes anymore. I just make it, it's just, but after 25 years, I mean.
Well, you understand the science of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Baking and confectionery is scientific in nature, because it's not just about cooking something. It's about what happens when certain ingredients are put together. So you can put baking soda in a pancake or in a cookie, but if there's nothing there that's going to create acidity, then that baking soda isn't going to react and isn't going to rise, which is why we have things like baking powder, which already has that acidic element added to it. So the moment it gets wet, that reaction starts and it will start to foam, and that's what creates the air bubbles, which creates the lift in your pancakes or your cake or something like that. So that's why baking soda always needs something in there that's acidic. So maybe a spoonful of vinegar or a squeeze of lemon juice or something like that. So it is pure science.
Thank you for that secret. I've always wondered why my cookies are flat.
There you go. You're welcome. And I mean, I was just going to say one more thing. When you're baking a cake, the sugar in a cake, have you noticed when you bake bread with eggs in it, it's still very bready and hard and substantial.
Right.
But if you bake a cake with eggs in it, it's always very tender and light and crumbles in your hand when you pull it apart. That's because of the sugar. Because the sugar stops the protein in the eggs from coagulating, from setting hard. It keeps it soft. So if you don't put enough sugar in, your cake's going to be a bit tough, when you have to chew it. So that's the science part. Don't get me started. I'll go on for hours.
So, God, the science. I love the science.
No.
I want to pivot to some pop culture questions, which are going to be, do you ever watch baking shows?
I do. I was actually watching one last night. I was watching that holiday one on Food Network. The holiday, they've got like 10 of them now, though. That's the thing, and I never know which one I'm watching, because they all just kind of blend into each other. But I do like them. But do you know what I like more? I like the British ones, the British shows, because they're so relaxing.
Well, you see, what I've learned to love about them is they're not actually competing for anything.
No.
There's no prize. The sportsmanship He's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're all
They're also kind to each other.
and helpful. It's like,
Yeah.
I finished early. Do you need help with your tart? Or
Yeah. And on the US one, it's like loads of loud music and running and shouting and come on like this, you know, the whole time. And I'm like this, you know. And the British one is like, ooh, and now we're going to put the pastry into the little pie dish. And there's that music in the back, that soft little gentle plink plonk music in the background.
You know, I do think it's cruel though that those tents they can get very hot. And so
I can imagine.
they always do, they're like, we're gonna do a souffle or a chocolate challenge, and it's 98 or 102 degrees Fahrenheit in there.
Yeah, outside, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. But I'm always amazed by these baking shows. I'm always amazed about what the people can do. And those ones with the kids, have you seen those? Those kids baking shows. And they're like, oh yeah, now I'm making the whipped ganache center and I'm putting it on top of the mirror glazed torts that I've just made. And this is like an 11-year-old kid, you know? It amazes me. It's so cool.
I think it just shows that anybody can do anything if you just, take the time to learn it. So just yesterday, I think, or the day before, they lit the monument up, didn't they, for the holiday?
They did, yes. And it was a bit early this year. And the reason for that was because this year is the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower landing. That was on the 11th. And they lit the monument this year on that day as a, a nod to that, because there were big celebrations planned. But of course, with COVID-19, that was all cancelled. So yeah, they lit the monument early this year. And this year, for the first time, it's lit with LED lights.
Oh.
For the climate.
Are they cool or warm? Do they look like the old ones looked, or?
They don't look quite so warm. They're actually quite white, brilliant white.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
which kind of fits in with the 400th anniversary of the Mayflower landing, because that was really white too.
For our viewers that don't know, the Pilgrims landed in Provincetown, but the water there was brackish, so they couldn't find potable drinking water, and so they just hopped across the bay and set up shop in Plymouth.
Exactly, and then the ones that stayed behind, they were the fishers. They were the fishermen, weren't they? And then the Portuguese came, and then all the things that go with a seafaring community came as well, such as gin houses and loose women. And that was when the people from Plymouth started naming Provincetown Helltown.
And then the homosexuals and the artists.
I know, right? And then things started to go in a good direction.
Okay, give me another piece of advice.
Another piece of advice. Eat foods that makes you happy. I'm going to rephrase that. It didn't come out. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to put it into words.
Okay.
So one piece of advice. Oh no, I have a good piece of advice. If you don't like what you're doing, change it. And this goes for any profession, but predominantly my focal point is the food industry. And you go to so many places where you see these half interested or completely disinterested people working in jobs for years and years. And I always said that to myself, if I don't like what I'm doing, I'm going to stop it. Because I refuse to serve someone a plate full of my boredom or a bag full of my apathy or a box full of my anger.
Yes.
I am not going to do that, because food isn't just nutrition for your body. It's also nourishment for your soul, your psyche. So eat food that makes you happy. Eat food that makes you feel good about yourself and about your choices. Don't sit there eating something and then halfway through start hating yourself because, oh my God, look, I'm eating that thing again. Eat good food. Eat food that doesn't just feed your body, but also feeds you.
Yeah.
Your mind. So that's my advice.
I think that's so important because when you had mentioned the science of confection, it is molecular. So while you're manipulating the molecularness of these foods, you're also putting your energy into it.
Yeah.
So you don't want to give someone a bag full of your anger.
No. Well, sometimes you do, but but not as a profession. No.
Now, do you know so your business is primarily shipping your product. Do you know if any boutiques have sell your line commercially, or is it?
Yes. Yeah, I also sell to stores around the US.
How friggin' cool is that?
Yeah, so if you guys are in Chicago, you can go to Food Ease in Chicago and buy my chocolate. And if you're in Boston, you can go to Beacon Hill Chocolates and buy my chocolates. And you can also go to Gourmet Boutique in the Copley Plaza, in the mall there.
Yeah.
The little specialty chocolate shop, they sell my chocolate. And then down in Georgia, in Blue Ridge, Georgia, there's a store called Out of the Blue that sells my chocolate. And also in Thomasville, Georgia, and also in Pittsburgh, all over the place.
Now, Georgia just flipped. Did you have a little party?
Oh yeah, we had a little party, and all my Georgia friends were on Instagram Messenger, oh my God, we can't believe it's just happened. Yeah, it was a big change, a really big change. But I have to say, in Georgia's defense, it gets a bad rap, but Georgia actually isn't as bad as people think it is regarding equality rights and that kind of thing.
Right.
They're very, the community I lived in was very, very welcoming to the LGBT community. And that was my only experience. Of course, there are a lot of other things going on in the world that are not so accepted and need to change. But my experience personally in Georgia, in North Georgia, was a good one. People were extremely open and welcoming and friendly.
Now, how did you find your way to Georgia?
Via my husband. We met when I was living in the Caribbean. And I had left, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm from a town called Haarlem in the Netherlands. And I had left there many, many years before then. So I basically had nothing established in the Netherlands, whereas my husband had his house, he had his business, all the rest of it. He did a property management business in the mountains of North Georgia. So it kind of just made sense to go where the life was already in place. So we moved to where he lives in Georgia. And it was a place in the world, I'd never lived in the US, and it was a place that wasn't even on my radar, I'd heard of Georgia, but it wasn't anywhere that I had a vision of what it looked like or anything like that. So it was quite an experience. And I can't say it was easy all the time because it's a mountain community. So a lot of the time you're up there on the top of the mountain looking at a beautiful view, and then that's kind of it.
Right.
You know, I didn't have a driver's license at that time, so I couldn't even get down off the mountain to go and do something. So yeah, it was pretty challenging at times. But on the whole, it's beautiful. And if it's a part of the world that I would highly recommend that people go and visit.
Now, do you get Georgia peaches when the truck comes through? There's a truck that comes up to Boston with Georgia peaches, and my family is from Houston, so we have pecan trees and peach trees, but there's peaches from that area. They just taste so much better to me.
They do taste better, yeah. I actually went to a couple of the orchards down there and tried. I didn't realize there were so many type of peaches. And my favorite one is, I think it's called the Flame Prince.
Yeah, the color is beautiful.
Where you cut it open and around the pit inside is this bright red, like flame of fruit pulp in there. And when you're eating it, the juice literally runs down your arm.
They're so messy.
Who doesn't love a flaming prince, huh?
Well, I want to thank you for spending the last hour with us. Now, before we go, let's review how people can find you again so we can drop those links.
Absolutely. And can I share something, some news with you?
Of course.
I've collaborated with 2 other chocolatiers in San Francisco. That is David Upchurch, who's a very established chocolatier in Oakland, and my friend Evan, who has his small chocolate business called Low Bar Chocolate. We created a charity fundraising box of chocolates, and all the proceeds are going to the Trevor Project to help LGBTQ youth with crisis intervention and suicide prevention services. Everything that we have put into the box, we are donating. So all the proceeds are going to the Trevor Project. I can give a link. We're actually reaching the end of the drive. We have a few boxes of chocolates left, but I can leave the link with you, and it'll probably be down here somewhere. Okay.
There it is.
Yeah. But you can buy my chocolate online at www.chocolatasm.com.
I love it. I love it. So what are you going to do with the rest of your wonderful day?
Today, well, it's actually kind of bright out there today, so I think I'm actually going to go out and meet a couple of friends, and we're going to have a cup of coffee, probably at Joe Coffee, up by the boat slip there, and just enjoy this very mild fall weather. It's lovely. And then I have to come home and I actually have to wrap up chocolate bars. I do it all by hand, all on my own.
So as I was about to ask, so you get the wrapper sent to you and then you just go to town?
Yeah, so this wrapper, the one I showed you, I designed this myself, and it has a little story on the back of it, see, with my little chocolate quote that says, "No food, when eaten, should bring with it 1 single ounce of regret." So yeah, I wrap the chocolate bars all myself. I make everything myself, wrap them all myself. And then I try to think of fun names for my chocolate bars. I've got a new one. I've got a nutmeg bar called Sexy Nutmeg. And then I have a milk chocolate bar with cactus flower, honey, and dried blueberries. Ooh, and that one's called Honey Blue Blue. And I have a ginger tiramisu, and then I have this one. Look at the name of that one.
Stella!
Stella! And that's named after my mother, who unfortunately is no longer with us. But I was making the chocolate bar, and she kept coming into my mind while I was making this chocolate bar, and I said, I'm going to call it Stella.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, PJ, thank you for sharing your artistry. Thank you for collaborating to help out the youth through the Trevor Project with your 2 colleagues out in San Francisco. This is This has been eye-opening, educational, and now I'm hungry. So
Yeah, go and get something.
Right? So y'all, if you're in Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, find PJ's Chocolate. If you're not anywhere near that, go online to Chocolatier.
Chocolatier. Follow me on Instagram, and I always answer DMs.
You heard it here, folks. And tune in next week when we interview, I don't know, but it's going to be great.
Thank you so much, my love.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody. Wash your hands. Wear a mask.
Yes.
Hello, it's me, Sister Gloria Laluya, the Holy Cow, from the Boston Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, and I am here today to talk to you about the Boston Sisters Community Grants Fund. Since 2014, we've given away nearly $40,000 to organizations as varied and diverse as queer theater arts and performance groups, to elder and youth support organizations, and mental and physical health groups, from homeless support and food programs to groups that support our trans friends and people of color. And after a year of record-breaking fundraisers and great, amazing support from our friends and family like you, we have so much money. Like, so much money. Please, we are begging you, come and take our money. Please. But you might be asking, well, how do I get some of that money? Well, first of all, you have to be part of an organization, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. Second of all, not a requirement, but you maybe should be in Massachusetts or the New England area. We do love to give local. And third, like the groups that I mentioned above, and probably most importantly, you have to do work that makes your community a brighter, a richer, a happier, a healthier place to be. Your mission should align with the Sisters' mission of bringing happiness and joy and education and freedom and every other good word to everyone around you. If you are part of a 501c3 and you do that kind of work, then you should apply. Now, obviously, we can't give money to everybody, but it doesn't hurt to apply because you never know. So, the deadline for applications is Friday, December 4th, 2020. And you can find out more information from the groups that we've helped in the past to the criteria that we look for in organizations. All of that can be found on thebostonsisters.org. I'll put the full link down here because I don't feel like saying it out loud because there's slashes and hyphens and who can be bothered? Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this little video. We truly hope that we will get applications from all of you. Last year, I think we got about 25. Let's hope that we can double that number this year because I am the Mistress of Grants and I am ready to weed through 50 applications. That sounds like a dream to me. I am not being sarcastic. We love you. We adore you. We cannot wait until we get to actually see you in person again. Please be safe. Please be healthy. Please be fabulous. We love you. The Boston Sisters. Mwah.